evening, ladies and gentlemen. How you doing? Welcome to tonight's show. And I guess we got the footballs going on today. What's going on with the football stuff? I haven't even looked at anything going on in the playoffs. I think the Eagles and the Packers were playing. Who else was playing? Was it the Bills and the... Who's playing? The Bills playing? I'm sorry. I'm not good when it comes to the footballs. I'm sorry. But I am pretty hyped about Mike Vrabel becoming the next head coach of the New England Patriots. So I've always been a Vrabel guy, even when during his days with the Patriots, just one of those hard-nosed guys that just got dirty out there, just played the game hard, man. During his time with the Titans, successful tenure there, right? I always love seeing the clips of when he's, doing like blocking stuff, with the linemen and whatnot on the field. I love seeing the coaches getting involved. I'm excited about Mike Vrabel, but listen, again, I don't know really what the heck I'm talking about when it comes to football. I'm not an expert there. This is a baseball show, and we got some stuff to talk about here tonight. Hope everyone had a great weekend. Hope it was relaxing, decompressing. I hope you got to enjoy the footballs, like I said. And we got some stuff here to talk about. Not really a whole lot going on. I'm going to be very honest with you. I'm going to try and keep this short and sweet for tonight. Keep it pretty tidy. We really only have a couple of stories to talk about. Believe it or not, listen, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be so biased with the Red Sox. I'm not trying to be Draft Nick Robbie over here, but, really right now in the news, they are just in the news. So that's why I'm going to be saving the Red Sox stuff for Fenway Faithful. We'll be going live over there after we talk about a little bit of Anthony. I already messed up there. It says right there, Pete Alonso, Jack Flaherty. And I meant to put Santander. My goodness, let me go fix that right quick. Already goofing up over here, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. Santander and Flaherty. Haven't heard anything on Alonso. I'm sorry to tell you, nothing going on there. The last that we heard on Mr. Pete Alonso was he was willing to do a 3-year deal with an opt-out. But we do have a little something here on Anthony Santander and Jack Flaherty, and it looks like they're feeling the same way, right? Looks like we're kind of getting to that same point that we saw last year with the Boris 4, or was it the Boris 5? I can't even remember. You had the Cody Bellingers, the Matt Chapmans, the Blake Snells, the Jordan Montgomerys, right? Where you saw Montgomery, Bellinger, Chapman. You saw all of them take short-term deals. For Matt Chapman, that actually worked out pretty well. Got the extension during the season with the Giants, had a great season, underrated season. Even Blake Snell, it took him an off season, or it took him a whole season, and but he ended up getting the deal he was looking for with the Dodgers, so it worked out for him. Cody Bellinger, right, ended up getting traded to the Yankees. And, Jordan Montgomery, obviously that did not work out so well, but, in the end, they had to do those short-term deals because their markets did not formulate the way they thought they would. And Boris, drags it out as long as he can. But it looks like when it comes to Santander and Flaherty, it looks like they're trying to take the same approach. And, it's interesting with these guys. And same thing with Pete Alonso too, right? When you look at these three guys, there are question marks with all three. You could say the same thing when, it came to Blake Snell last year, right? Blake Snell is a guy, sure, winning a couple of Cy Youngs, but, there was always some kind of a question mark with him really every single year, either a high walk rate or some kind of injuries, or whatever it may be. So teams were really hesitant on, going like a 6 or 7 year deal for Blake Snell. Cody Bellinger, the question with him, sure, he was coming off a great season, but the 3 years prior to that, there was just something not right with him, right? It took him really 3 years to get back on track. Had a ton of injuries along the way, but he got himself right back in 2023. And, in the end, teams were a little hesitant, right? When it comes to Santander and Jack Flaherty, now, the difference with these guys, right? Well, I think you could look at Flaherty. I think the obvious one with Jack Flaherty is the injuries, right? He has that injury history, sure. A great season this past year, right? 28 starts, the most starts for him. I believe that's the most starts for him. Yes, most starts for him since 2019. But it really took him a couple of years to get himself right since that very good 2019 season, running into a ton of injuries along the way, and finally put it all together this year. 162 innings. You could even argue, you probably still want to see a bit more there, right? He did have some back issues along the way this year, but overall solid numbers, ERA and the FIP very solid this year. Good strikeout to walk ratio. Did get bit by the home run ball a little bit this year, but again, you wonder about Flaherty because of the history there. How far are you willing to go with him? That was one where I was unsure. I'm like, man, would a team even want to go 5 years with Flaherty? I really could see the 3-year deal with an opt-out in there. When you look at all the opt-out deals that we've gotten over the last year or so, I think that really could make sense for Jack Flaherty, as well as, for him and the team obviously signing him. You don't know what the health is going to look like. I think for the teams, it gives him an opportunity to get a solid 3-year deal. And if he ends up pitching very well in the first year, and he is still pretty young, right? 29 years old. So he's right in the middle of his prime, not even 30 years old yet. So that could give him a chance to go back out into the market next year, or if he likes his situation, he can just stay where he is. So I honestly think a 3-year opt-out deal makes a lot of sense for Flaherty. Now, if you're looking at it in the case of Santander, I think you can also look at something there. Everyone's going to look at the 44 home runs, right? But it's not all about the 44 home runs. There's a lot. You have to remember, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, I hate to keep beating a dead horse. Hate to keep doing it. But listen, I get it. We all like the home runs. We all like, the RBIs, the slugging percentage, right? Yes, all good numbers. However, you have to look at the whole profile. Teams, yes, they like to see 44 home runs, but in the end, teams want wins. They don't necessarily want the player. When you're just looking at the player here with Santander, you're looking at 44 homers, right? Big power guy. But you need to think, the way front offices think is how many wins is he going to bring to the team, right? And that isn't just, looking at the power. It's looking at the whole profile. You're looking at the offense. What is he giving you defensively? Yes, the way you play defense is going to contribute to how many wins you are going to give a team, right? Or to help dictate how many wins that team is going to end up getting, right? Defense is an important factor. I know it's boring. We don't like to think about it, but it is what it is. But not even just that, the base running as well. You have to think about, what are these guys doing on the bases? Like I said, with Santander, sure, he's got some good power, but when you're looking at the defense is pretty non-existent. I think you could say he should just probably be a DH at this point. The base running has been in the negatives every single year with him. You have to think about those things. So that's where I think of teams where they probably see a guy here. Yeah, this guy could be a bopper in your lineup, right? But there's a lot of DH risk here. Sure, could you maybe hide him in a corner outfield spot? Yeah, you're going to have to deal with that as you go, right? But I wonder if teams are hesitant on giving him a 5-year deal because he doesn't move very well in the outfield. He doesn't move very well on the bases, so that's where I see it. And coming into the offseason, I was thinking a 4-year deal for Santander, but I wouldn't be surprised at this point to see him just get a 3-year deal. I still think there's a chance maybe a team could open up to like a 3-year deal with an option, something like that. But again, you have to worry about that. But another thing with Santander as well, not even looking at the fielding and the base running, but you also have to look at the fact too, yeah, sure, I see 44 home runs. I see a 506 slugging. I see a 129 WRC plus, but I'm looking at that on-base percentage. When you take a look at the expected weighted on-base average for him, it's pretty middle of the roads. The on-base 308, you want to see a better number than that. That's not exactly, breaking the walls down like Chris Jericho over here. You'd like to see a bit of a higher number there. So I think teams they're a little cautious of Santander. 40 plus home runs, that's nice, but you have to make sure you're not just looking at that. That can end up being in a way, a kind of a smoke screen, right? Because it, something that looks pretty good like that could, you can't let that get in the way of all the other things, right? So Wouldn't be surprised if Santander ends up getting a 3-year deal. Same thing with Jack Flaherty. Now, if you are looking at Jack Flaherty for a 3-year deal, based off projections, based off the past performance and the projections moving forward, right? You are looking at it on baseball trade values with their future free agent value tool. You're looking at around $80 million for a 3-year deal, right around a $27.5 million AAV. I could see something like that, right? If you're looking at Jack Flaherty, when it comes to his Fangraph wins above replacement, a 3.2 overall. If you're looking at roughly right around an $8 million per win above replacement, you're looking at a little right around $25 million for value this past year. We can actually go get that exact number here. He was worth $25.7 million this past year. I don't know if you can actually see that on the screen. That might be cut off for you. Let's see if that pops up there. Nope, you can't quite see it. But I'm letting you know it's right around 26 million on the value according to Fangraphs. So yeah, looks like he's healthy. Looks, what we saw, this past year, he saw a lot of good things. So I could see anywhere in that $25 to $28 million range. I could say, fair value for him is probably around $25 million per year. Factor in a little bit of market, right? That bumps it up a little bit, probably $27, $28 million per year. So I wouldn't be surprised to see like a 3-year, $75 to $85 million deal. I think that could make a lot of sense. Now, if you're thinking of teams that could still use some pitching, all right, as of right now, if we go to the projection leaderboards when it comes to Fangraphs, right? Yeah, there's still a lot of teams, that could, maybe use someone like Flaherty, right? I see you, Jimmy Productions, with the super chat here. What do you think of the Nationals offseason so far, trading for Nate Lowe, signing Bell, Rosario, Soroka, Lopez? I'll touch more on that at the end of the show. I'm going to do a little bit of Q&A there. But I really would like to see more out of the Nationals. I can understand maybe they're still a little, I don't want to say timid. That's not the right word, but they feel like maybe they're not quite there yet. I feel like they're very close to getting into that competitive window. So I think they've made some good moves, right? I was expecting a bit more out of them, but maybe they just feel like they want to actually, get there first before they go out there and get very aggressive. Could you even maybe see them maybe make a run at someone like Jack Flaherty on a 3-year deal? You got to think of it from this way, right? I think for a team like the Nationals, you probably want to be competitive right now at this point before you get into a deal, a big money deal, because you want to take advantage of the first few years of that deal. You want to make it worthwhile, right? Because usually there's regression. But if it's a 3-year deal for Flaherty, I could see that being pretty decent for the Nationals. I don't know, though. I don't know. You're looking pretty full in the rotation at this point. I don't know. Do they make a run there? For the Nationals, again, Jimmy Productions, I like the offseason. I'd probably right now give it like a C plus B, like kind of in that range. Probably I'm feeling a little good tonight. I'd say a B for the Nationals. I think C plus B is probably a good grade for the Nationals. Now, if they can go land someone like Flaherty, I think they can make a lot of sense. The Orioles were connected with him. I don't really see that. Listen, I would love for the Angels to do something here. I mean, listen, Artie Moreno does not like the big money deals. If Jack Flaherty is open to a short-term deal, I think that has LA Angels written all over it. Man, Flaherty would be the clear-cut ace, California guy. Kikuchi would be your number 2. You'd have Flaherty, Kikuchi, Anderson, Soriano, Hendricks you brought in. What happens with Reed Detmers at that point? I got no freaking clue. You got some other guys like Economix, Caden Dana, Aldegary too. So Flaherty, I think, would be awesome for the Angels. I think it makes a lot of sense. Could the Blue Jays maybe, go after him there? Again, the question you have to keep asking with Toronto here is, do players want to go there? They did land Jeff Hoffman, and I forgot to touch on this the other night. The Orioles, I guess, were looking like the front runner, but they did not like the medicals for Jeff Hoffman. So they pulled out. So the Blue Jays, It looks like they were about to come in second place, and he fell in their lap. So that's something to pay attention to with Jeff Hoffman moving forward. Could there be something there with him moving forward? Oh man, could you imagine that with the Blue? I'm sorry, man. I'm getting really scared of the Blue Jays, man. I'm getting worried, and the fact that kind of, in a way, listen, I like Jeff Hoffman a lot. I hope he stays healthy. I hope nothing, but seeing medical stuff, that always scares me, man. Like, I don't know. I think for Toronto, I really do think this season for Toronto, I hope he stays healthy. But if something ends up coming up with Hoffman this year, this could end up being a disaster of a season for the Blue Jays. I'm not trying to be negative. I'm sorry, but worries me a little bit, right? Bo Bichette going into free agency. Obviously, Vlad. What's going on with the extensions there? Or the extension, sorry. What's going to happen with that? I don't know, man. I'm getting real nervous about the Blue Jays right now. Hopefully everything stays fine with Hoffman, but I don't see them going after Flaherty at this point. I thought the Giants would have been a great landing spot for him, but they brought in Verlander instead. They thought 1 year of Verlander was a better option. Maybe you can see the Cubs still do something there. I don't see the Padres. Could you do something with the Mets here? I say they probably don't. Cardinals, no. Brewers, no. Astros, no. Reds, I think you still could make a move here. Nick Martinez has that flexibility to be in the bullpen. He could be a swingman kind of a guy. I'd watch out for the Reds maybe to do something, especially if it is like a short-term kind of a deal. I look at the Tigers here for Jack Flaherty. I think that could make a lot of sense. He had a lot of success there this past year before getting moved to the Dodgers. I would love to see that 1-2 get back together with Skubal and him. I wouldn't count out the Tigers, especially if it's a short-term deal. I'd look out for that. D-backs, Mariners, no. Yankees, no. Pirates, no. Twins, no. Rangers, no. Red Sox, Braves. Jim Bowden connected Flaherty with the Braves. I wonder if, take what Bowden says with a grain of salt, but I wonder if he is open to a short-term deal. Maybe Anthopoulos could be open to something like that. I would pay attention to that. Don't count that out. But those are the teams that I think, right? We'll see what ends up happening with Flaherty. Now, if I'm looking at Santander, we can just kind of go, right field, right? If we're looking at teams that could really use a bit of a boost in the offense, probably don't see the Phillies doing anything there. Astros, I still wonder if the Astros could be in play for either Santander, Profar. If they really want to go cheap end, you could go for, Verdugo, Winker, possibly. I would love for the Pirates to make a freaking move, but Bob Nutting is laughing at that idea. The Reds, I thought, would have been a great fit for Santander in the beginning of the offseason. I did predict the Reds for Santander there because they need a bopper. They need a guy that can just really just mash in the middle of the order. I feel like he'd be a great fit there. Maybe the short-term deal could be something appealing to them. The Royals, I don't know about the Royals. They could use a bit of a boost in the offense, but they're stuck with Renfroe right now. I don't know. You got Melendez out there in left. I don't know about the Royals. I don't know. Nationals, right? You got some young guys out there getting playing time. Giants, Santander in San Francisco would be fun, but, Yastrzemski's the guy. The Angels have been connected with Santander. I think that could make some sense. Jorge Soler is mostly going to be getting DH time. I can see a bit of a rotation with him and Mike Trout. And, maybe Angels Santander could make some sense. The Tigers have been connected with him. Depending on what happens with Alex Bregman, I would love to freaking know what's going on with Bregman at this point. I got no clue what's going on there. There's no news on Bregman at all. I wish we had some news there. But look out for the Tigers. If something ends up falling out there, let's say Bregman ends up going to the Red Sox, which I'm not confident in that at this point, or a surprise team pops up for Bregman. I don't know. Could you see, the Cubs are weird right now because Matt Shaw looks primed to go for a job. But right now, Matt Shaw has not won a job. He needs to win it, but there's a lot of talk about him, being a guy for them next year. I think Matt Shaw can play in Major League Baseball right now. I think he has the intangibles to hold his own, at least for right now, and get used to Major League pitching. But maybe the Cubs, maybe they feel like, Shaw can end up, maybe playing some other positions, or maybe get a little bit more development time. Maybe they could move Nico Horner. The Mariners could still use someone, maybe. Maybe the Cubs could end up being a surprise team. Again, with the Blue Jays, do players want to go there at this point? I don't know. But for the Blue Jays with Santander, I feel like I've said that name like a million times. But yeah, there's an obvious fit here. They've been connected with him the most. I don't know, man. That worries me a little bit that he's been connected with them so much, and their name has popped up with him countless times, and nothing has happened. I'm not sure what to say about that. I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at. I think they're going to have to do short-term deals at this point. We will wait and see what ends up happening. But, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, not a long show here tonight. We really only have one more story to touch on here. But listen, it's a name that we got to start, making sure we're paying attention to here. And that is Roki Sasaki. Now, Roki Sasaki, he's getting close. What is today? The 12th? We're getting pretty close here. I think we're going to see something in the next, probably at least in the next week and a half, right? I think there's still a couple of days before the international signing period opens. That's the 15th, I believe. So I think once that is over, I think you give it a couple of days, let things kind of marinate a little bit. And I think Sasaki, you could end up seeing him signed by the end of the week. Who knows what's going on with him? But there was a bit of an interesting development this week. I don't know how much weight it really holds, but there was an international free agent out there by the name of Daryl Morel out of the Dominican Republic, a shortstop, 6'5" left-hander with big power upside, was set to be one of the Dodgers' top 2025 signings. With the uncertainty of the Dodgers situation, given that they might land Sasaki, Morel is now set to sign with the Pirates. And it looks like he's going to be getting way more money with the Pirates than he was going to be getting with the Dodgers. So, could that maybe be... I was reading something else out there that it looks like he was probably going to get around $1 million with the Dodgers. So who knows exactly how that all played out, but it was expected for him to go to the Dodgers. They had I guess a verbal agreement in place, but now he's going to Pittsburgh. Good for Pittsburgh, man. I mean, my goodness, a 6'5" left-handed shortstop with power upside. Guy sounds like a freak. Pittsburgh needs as many bats as they can get. But could this be a situation where the Dodgers, they're setting themselves up here to really unload all of their international free agent money for Mr. Sasaki? Now, I've seen people talk about the fact that, the Padres ownership, that's in turmoil. There's lawsuits going on right now. Peter Seidler's widow wants control of the Dodgers, and you got the brothers there. It seems like a mess. I don't know how that ends up turning out. Now, I don't necessarily think that, I don't know, I could be wrong. I'm trying to think, because it's like, I could understand why people think that could be a problem. I could definitely see that, because obviously you want the team to be in good shape, right? Not the team, but organization. You want everything to be running smoothly. But in the end, there will be an owner of the team. However that works out, I'm not sure what the better option would be. That's not my job to say who should be the owner. But either way, the Padres, over the years, they've shown to have good player development. They've been competitive here. They've had very good talent here on this roster. You could argue that the Padres and the Dodgers this year was the National League Championship. No offense to the Mets, but that Padres-Dodgers series was as close as you could get. I still think the Padres are in very good shape when it comes to just the organization, right? I know everything trickles down from ownership, but in the end, that's going to work itself out, you know? So I still think the people, like AJ Preller that is there, this is a guy, he has eyed Roki Sasaki for a while now. You have Yu Darvish there. In the end, will that be enough to overcome some possible turmoil, or not possible, but turmoil with the ownership situation? I don't have an answer to that. I can see why people think that could be a problem, but I wonder if it's as big of a deal as we think it could be, right? Because in the end, people still have their jobs within the organization. It's not like, they're selling off the team. It's just a matter of, if they were selling the team, which could end up, I guess that was something where relocation had been talked about at some point. I don't know what's going on with that. But in the end, people in the organization still have jobs. It's not like, it's not like where they're getting no money coming in and they're having trouble bringing in revenue and whatnot. Everything is still pretty strong developmentally. And I still think that could be a good home. But in the end, I don't know. I don't know the nooks and crannies of the whole situation. It could be a factor. It could be. I'm not going to say it's not. But I don't know. I feel like maybe that could be a bit more overblown than I think that could be overblown. I don't know. Just my opinion, just my feel on it. I could be very wrong about that. But again, with the Dodgers, right? Obviously, I mean, we all know, I'm not going to sit here and keep talking about why the Dodgers would be a good landing spot. Of course, they're a good landing spot. It just comes down to, what does he prefer, right? Is he cool with going and playing, with Ohtani and Yamamoto? I'm sure there's at least intrigue with that. Obviously, the Dodgers have been a very successful organization over the years, coming off a World Series championship. All the reasons are there. In the end, we don't know what he actually wants. Yeah, of course he can go to the Dodgers, right? That obviously can happen. And the Dodgers are setting themselves up for a good run, at least, right? They're looking like they're getting ready to empty the bank for him. And wouldn't be surprised at all if he ended up landing there, right? I guess the last we had heard is right around maybe like 15, 20 teams that were in the mix, but really you're probably looking at maybe 3 to 5, right? Dodgers, Padres, the Yankees. Jim Bowden thinks that they have a pretty good shot because with the Yankees, he would have a good opportunity to get endorsement deals off the field. He wouldn't be in the light he wouldn't be in the shadow, of Ohtani and Yamamoto. But again, with Yamamoto, we all thought that was one thing we heard of last offseason. I believe, guys like Rosenthal and some other writers out there were saying that Yamamoto might want to be his own guy. He might want to go and, be his own star. And that ended up not being true at all. He wanted to play with Ohtani, right? He basically had the Dodgers at the top of his list from the get-go. I think we all should have seen that when he went to a Lakers game, for crying out loud. But who knows what the deal is with Sasaki. Maybe he feels like he can get more endorsements in New York. I mean, yeah, he definitely could. He would be a star in New York. But again, does he want to be a star right now? Does he want to just focus on being the best pitcher that he can be without having to worry about, photo opportunities and, who knows how much the endorsements mean to him. I don't know, right? I'm thinking out loud here, but in the end, I think it's going to be interesting. I think you could say the Dodgers, Padres, Yankees. Again, we haven't seen like any reports on, who could be, also, in the mix. We've seen like the Mets have popped up here and there. I would probably, the Giants, I think, have popped up as a possible team. We'll see. It really comes down, what I think, it's really going to come down to what is their presentation on how they feel like they can develop Sasaki as a pitcher in Major League Baseball. What is going to sound the most appealing to him? Because sure, endorsements, that sounds great, right? I think in the end, he's probably going to want to find somewhere where he can get a little bit of everything. I'm sure he could still get some good endorsement deals with the Dodgers. I don't see why he couldn't. It's a massive market, obviously. I don't see why not. That I don't know, but if he with the Yankees, yeah, he could definitely get those endorsements. But does he feel like they can develop him? Is that the right environment for him to grow as a pitcher? I think that is going to be the biggest factor coming into it. You know, you got to remember with Sasaki, as good as he is, he's still very young, right? So there's still a lot of growth. Whereas with Yamamoto, he had developed as far as he could, being coming from Japan. Obviously, there's, a learning curve, in the States, right? But with Sasaki, you got to think he's only been playing professional baseball now for 4 years at this point, 3-4 years. So, and being that young, 23 years old, coming over to the States, that's a lot, man. You got to think of the human being too. If it were me, 23-year-old me, I don't even what am I even doing at 23 years old? I don't know anything about life at that point. So, in the end, I think it will come down probably Yankees, Padres, Dodgers, one of those teams. Who knows? Maybe even a surprise team. Maybe I don't know. The craziness in me wants the White Sox. I need the world to melt. I would love to see that. It probably is not going to happen, but I see you in the chat, right? Problematic VG Detroit. I think that'd be a great landing spot, man. I think it'd be an awesome landing spot. We'll see. But keep your eyes on Sasaki. That is coming up here. The 15th is International Signing Day. Probably the end of the week. I think you could see something at the end of the week. Wouldn't be surprised at all. But let's get to a couple of things here. Maury's Life. Thank you for becoming a member for 5 straight months. Giants signed Justin Timberlake, thinking it was Justin Verlander. Oh my goodness, the Giants, they can't catch a break. Maury's Life. Jimmy Productions. I think the number 1 pick is interesting for the Nats because you could take Holiday and he would be our future third baseman and move House to first base or DH, or take Jace from Texas A&M, or even a pitcher if one rises. Now, if we were to take a look here. Here we go. Taking a look here. Man, it's crazy the Nationals, man, getting that first overall pick. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't fully dove in. Obviously, there's Holiday. I would imagine Holiday is probably going to be the guy. I don't know. I would imagine, guys looking ridiculous. I mean, look at the 6'4", 200 pounds at 17 years old. I mean, there's a lot of different ways here. I wonder if maybe the Nationals go with a college player, like you mentioned here with Jace, because they are getting pretty close to that competitive window. And like you mentioned, you got House, Ethan Holiday, wherever he ends up playing, third or short, you could move, Brady House across the infield there. So that could work. But you got to think with Holiday, I mean, he's going to be pretty far away, right? I actually do wonder, considering where, the Nationals are, I wonder if a college guy, or maybe they even take a pitcher, could they end up taking one of these guys like Seth Hernandez, Tyler Bremner, Arnold? Could one guy really climb up? That's the one thing. We're looking at these draft rankings right now. That's one thing that happens every single year. Sure, we're looking at these, but you got to wait until it comes to, June, July. That's when you will see a completely different leaderboard at that point. Guys are still playing right, up to the draft, right? Look at someone like Christian Moore. Christian Moore, I believe, was near 30, right? And look what happened with him. He just erupted in the College World Series and ended up getting picked 8th overall, right? So, yeah, you're looking at these now, but you never know what could end up happening. I mean, this is now. Let's see. But, I mean, if you were to go off of this, if I'm looking at timeline, really depends, man. It also depends on, signing money, slot values, just saying. these scouting reports could also change. Who knows, man? Got to wait for that college season to start. Things can change. So, yeah, Jimmy, I definitely think you're, I'm glad you're paying attention to that number 1 pick. That'd be exciting. Jimmy Productions, once again, $4.99. Watch out for Zach Gallen. That's what I mean. I think if the Nationals, if they're right there in the wild card hunt, like until the end of the season, I actually wonder, man, if someone like Zach Gallen could end up being a guy for them, or Dylan Cease. I'm waiting for the Nationals to erupt as a big threat in free agency. But Jimmy Productions, thank you, my friend. You basically, what's the word I'm looking for? You funded the show pretty much tonight, my friend. Thank you for the super chats. Do appreciate you. But everyone, we're gonna wrap things up here. James Hirota, yeah, Jace being 6'6", 230. Yeah, what a build! What a build, man. My goodness, Jack Caglione, that guy's a monster. I guess they're open to maybe playing him in the outfield a little bit. I said that. I said that last year in the draft, right? Look out for someone like him, maybe being like a corner outfielder, right? Obviously he's been playing first base, but the guy's a rocket of an arm. Why would you not play Jack Caglione out in one of the corner spots, right? Improve the versatility a little bit, right? We'll see. But everyone, I'm going to wrap this up here. We are going to be going over to Fenway Faithful. And I do appreciate you for stopping by here tonight. We're going to be diving into all of the Red Sox news over there. Fenway Fest this past weekend. There's a lot of fallout from that. Craig Breslow making comments. Alex Cora, Sam Kennedy making comments. Tristan Casas talking about trade rumors. I'm going to give you my thoughts on that. Head on over to Fenway Faithful. Thank you, everyone. We had over 500 people in here for tonight. Look out for a video tomorrow. I'm going to be going over the latest Bleacher Report trade proposals. Look out for that video tomorrow. You all know I love diving into the trade talks, so expect a video on that tomorrow. And if there is anything to talk about news-wise for tomorrow, I'll be here. Jack, great show. Thanks, Robbie. Happy New Year. Jack, thank you, my friend. Likewise, appreciate you, my friend. Everyone, head on over to Fenway Faithful, and I'll talk to you next time.